Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective, where today we are going to kind of re-update a video that I did a couple years ago where we went through each season and looked at who has yet to come back to All Stars and talk about their likelihood of returning. Now, this is like a constantly evolving issue and topic because, queens are constantly quitting drag, coming back from drag, going on a hiatus, coming back, getting an opportunity, getting memed on the internet, or starting a podcast, or jumping on a podcast. Like, there's always things going on. So the likelihood of All Stars, I think, personally, just kind of depends on what you've been doing lately and if there is any interest. We're going to look at this from a 2024 perspective. The cast of Canada's Drag Race versus the World just dropped, and we also have All Stars 10 currently filming. So that cast has not been entirely Nancy Drew'd, but we know a couple queens that are pretty likely to be on. So looking at both the Canada versus the World, looking at who they chose for Global All Stars, looking at who they're casting on All Stars 9 and All Stars 10, hopefully we can look at some of the trends of All Stars casting right now and determine who could possibly be getting some calls for Canada versus the World, UK versus the World, Global All Stars 11, all of the All Stars that will be coming in 2025, which is probably going to be like at least 30 seasons of them at this point. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you are not already, the rigged recap has been going for All Stars 9, and Kayla and I have many thoughts. Many thoughts on this season. So if you need another Drag Race podcast in your life where two hateful bitches will just tell it exactly how it is, then the Rigged Recap is the podcast for you. Available wherever you listen to your podcasts. The 75K subscriber special will be coming soon, where I get into full drag. I will unveil my drag persona, but obviously that video will be taking a little bit longer than a video like this, so be on the lookout for that in the coming weeks. And also, Drag Duel Season 2 is fully going, is fully in production. It is a little less than halfway done, and it is iconic. So if you want to watch live in the Discord server, see the challenges and the runways as they are done, see the judging as it is done, see the warriors interact and fight, and trust me, there are fights, then join our Drag Duel Patreon where you can get access to all of that months before Season 2 actually airs. Okay, that's everything. Now let's start looking at the queens who have yet to be on an All Stars. Now, will I forget at least probably one person? Maybe. We'll see. So if I forget someone, I'm sorry. The people who have been left off this list are the people who are no longer with us, unfortunately, and the predators / abusers, because there's just no need to bring them up. And we're also not looking at anyone who has been brought back to any All-Star season of any kind. Everyone else is fair game. So let's look at Season 1. There are 4 out of the 9 queens from the first season who still have yet to come back. And I think of all of the casts, Season 1 and 2 are definitely the most picked over. I don't really foresee any of the people from Season 1 or Season 2 that haven't been called yet coming back, but we can still look. So let's start off with Akasha, who is actually from my town, Cleveland. I've worked with her. She doesn't do drag anymore, as far as I'm aware. I've never seen her at a gig, never seen her at a show, not even just in the audience. I've only seen her when I've worked with her at my former place of employment. So I just don't really think Akasha is... she might be interested, but she got to do the drag to get on the drag show. She has been posting some throwback photos. So maybe there is an interest to get back into drag, but until that interest turns into action, I'm going to say there's really no shot of Akasha getting back on. I also don't really see a chance right now for Rebecca Glasscock, who was top 3, but has not been doing drag. She does a lot of male pageantry now. But if you look at her Instagram, which is just her boy name, it's not even Rebecca Glasscock, she's lately just been posting like some AI-generated images of herself. So I don't foresee Rebecca Glasscock coming onto All Stars anytime soon, unless she picks back up drag, which I don't really foresee happening anytime soon. She hasn't given any indication that would happen anytime soon. I also really don't see Jade Sotomayor getting on because I think she still does do drag, like, intermittently, but she really is more of like a male kind of go-go dancer kind of vibe now. She's always posting thirst traps and more AI generated images of herself. And, she's more of like a thirst trap queen than like a booked and blessed drag performer at this point. So I think if she wanted to start back up drag, Jade would actually be like maybe the best choice left from season 1 to pick. But until that happens, I just don't see her getting on. And then Pork Chop, I kind of feel like Pork Chop's time has passed. I think there was kind of a pocket of time where it would have been really cool to see her on. Maybe All Stars 5, All Stars 6. But I feel like she is so well respected in the community. She is the cameo queen. She's constantly coming on and, showing up for some random thing on Drag Race. And I feel like that might be the best place for her. Because I really do feel like as the first ever eliminated queen, if there was an interest on her end or the show's end, I feel like she would have been on by now. And she hasn't. So I just don't really think it's in the cards. But I wouldn't be like the most shocked in the world if she was kind of like a stunt cast on All Stars 11. Now let's look at season 2, who only has 2 out of the, I think, 12 contestants who have not ever returned. And that is Mystique Summers Madison and Nicole Paige Brooks. Now, Mystique, I don't know. I just feel like this kind of really like old school kind of drag is not something the show is super interested in showcasing. She does have some incredible looks. She's gone on a weight loss journey. But I just don't think she is fully on like the social media game. Like her Instagram is a lot of show posters and random photos of like her makeup brushes and, a lot of out of drag stuff. So I don't think that she necessarily has that like polished image that the show really likes their queens to have on their social medias. And I just don't think her name ever really pops up in wish lists or anything. So I don't know if there's any interest on her end, but I just don't foresee the show taking a risk on Mystique when there's so many queens from these newer seasons that we still haven't even touched yet. I think I could see them bringing back more of like a Morgan or a Tatiana from season 2 rather than Mystique. Nicole Paige Brooks, I mean, she is kind of like the meme, like the Nicole Paige Brooks of Atlanta, Georgia of it all. She still is doing drag, but kind of like Mystique, it's kind of like that old school drag that Drag Race just doesn't, like, they highlight anymore. She also doesn't really have a, like, prim and proper Instagram. It's kind of a bunch of random stuff. It's a lot of her putting on Instagram filters for no reason. So I think that she would be a great kind of cameo queen like Pork Chop. Like, just bring Nicole Paige Brooks on for something, and it would be iconic. But I don't really see them casting her on a season of All Stars, if that makes sense. For season 3, we have 5 contestants who have yet to come back, starting with the No Chancers. I think Stacey Lane Matthews has also kind of missed her pocket of opportunity to come back. She was allegedly supposed to be on All Stars 4 and was cut. She says it wasn't because of her health. Other people said it was because of her health. But her health is kind of this, like, overarching issue that might be in the way of her coming back. I know that right now she is in the hospital, and if you want to donate to Stacey Lane Matthews and help a legend of our community out, here are all of her payment information. I just think that Stacey really needs to prioritize her health right now, and I don't think the show would bring her back until that is kind of not a worry for anybody, for any party involved. Then we have Delta Work, who I would love more than anything to see back. I would love her to come back so badly. I mean, Very Delta is, everyone else is watching, Trixie and Katya. I watch Delta Work like other people watch Trixie and Katya. Like, literally, no joke. I love her so much, but production and Rue have burned bridges with Delta, and Delta has kind of aired out some of that dirty laundry, rightfully so. So there would need to be some kind of reconciliation before I think Delta came back. But there also is the kind of conflict of interest where Delta worked behind the scenes on Drag Race and maybe got a little bit too close to production for them to then allow her to be a contestant again and go back on the other side. So while I would love for Delta to come back, I'm just not sure it's in the cards. I feel the same way about Venus. Delight, I'm literally trying to look for her Instagram. I think it might be her boy name, which I can't remember off the top of my head because I can't find it. I think she's still out there doing drag for sure, but she just isn't really even part of the community at all. So I just don't see it. I guess I'm open to the possibility more than Delta because there's no reason that production would like not want her back, but I just don't think there's that much like reason for all of the first outs to bring back. I don't think Venus Delight is like at the top of the list. And I know that like some of this stuff is probably gonna sound shady, but like not everybody is meant to be an all-star. Not everyone is meant to come back. Like I'm sure these girls are killing it out in the world and I'm, hoping the best for everybody. But just from a production standpoint, not everyone is going to be fit for an all-stars. And I'm going to be honest about how I feel about that with everybody. Now we have a jump. And then we have Carmen Carrera, who was a little tiny bit speculated to be on All Stars 10. She has expressed that she wants to come back to All Stars. She famously stopped doing drag for a while and was just a model, but now she's diving back into drag. But she's also had a lot of negative things to say about the show, about RuPaul. And it's kind of like with Delta, it's like, are those bridges still burned? And would they have to fully mend those for them to want her back on the show? I think of these early seasons, Carmen might be one of the best options of someone who you want to bring back for the first time. Jessica Wilde was the big one from those first 3 seasons to bring back who hasn't been back yet. And now I feel like the next one is Carmen. So it really just comes down to, are her and production and Ru on good enough terms for them to want to bring her back. And then I have Phoenix a little bit above Carmen. I don't think Phoenix would be as good of a pull necessarily, but Phoenix is, I think, even more than Carmen, more integrated in the Drag Race community. She's friends with a lot of the Ru girls. She's constantly booked. Her drag has evolved so much. I think if not Carmen, Phoenix is the one that I would most want to see from these early seasons get a second chance. And there's really no reason why she wouldn't, but I don't think that many people probably remember her unless you're a super fan like us. She wasn't super memorable on her season. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not expecting it. So she's just a little bit over the halfway mark. Now we get to season 4, and this is a cast where I feel like everyone that they've brought back is probably it. And we'll talk about why. Kenya Michaels, unfortunately, was involved in the Pulse nightclub shooting tragedy and quit drag shortly after that. And now she just models, I think. But she is beautiful and stunning and living her best life. Elisa Summers, she is still booked out in Florida, I believe. She's an Orlando queen. Okay, Tampa. I just looked it up. She's a Tampa queen. So she's still booked out there. She just is another first out that I don't think anyone is clamoring to see more of. She was very just kind of forgettable in the episode. The episode didn't really focus on her much at all that she was in. So there really is just no reason to bring her back as of now. The Princess, she is one of the queens that is booked and blessed at, I think it's Play Nashville, which is a huge bar. She, I think is one of the staples of that bar. I would personally love to see her back, but I just don't think that there's an interest from the general audience or probably from World of Wonder either. LaShawn Beyond is a designer now. I know she makes a lot of looks for a lot of queens. I think she's diving back into drag, and looking at her Instagram, she has had a hell of a glow up. She looks stunning, and her looks are literally next level. I would love to see her back. I'm just not sure that when you look at these early seasons, a lot of people remember LaShawn outside of the iconic "This is not RuPaul's best friend" race quote. So I don't know. I just personally don't see it, but I would love to see her come back if that would come to fruition. Also, Milan. Maybe I should kind of switch Milan and then the Princess and LaShawn, only because Milan doesn't do drag very often anymore. But I just think on the season itself, Milan made a better impact. She was kind of like the lip sync assassin for the first half of the competition. So if she did come back to drag, she would be a really awesome pull. She's done Broadway. She's more of a theater kind of person now. So she would be an interesting person to bring back and kind of see what's changed. But she would just need to kind of commit to drag more full time, I think, for that to happen. And then Willem. Willem, I would love to come back. I think everybody wants Willem back. Every single person wants Willem back, except Willem and WoW. And those are the two people that it needs to be, that we need to have Willem back. I feel like Willem is always a never say never for me. I think there is just so much, want for this to happen that I don't think either party would close the door 100%, but it's barely a crack. You know what I mean? This bitch is almost shut. So, and you know what? Maybe in a couple years, I said that a couple years ago too, but I just think there is so much desire for Willem to come back that it's crazy to put her at no chance. And then the two queens that I think have the best shot, but it's still not a great shot, are Dita Ritz and Madame LaQueer. Dita Ritz has wanted to be on for years and years and years. She, I think, almost got on All Stars, I think it was 8, and apparently was cut and then had some very, choice words for WoW and the production company and the producers. So that probably didn't do her any favors. So, I don't know, it's another thing where it's everyone wants Dita on. Dita wants to be on. It really is just up to World of Wonder and the producers, and there just doesn't seem to be enough of a desire, which is bizarre to me when, we're casting queens now who are first outs or second outs or really have made no impact on their seasons, which is fine, but that shouldn't be to the detriment of queens like Dita Ritz, who made it to the end of their season, had some iconic moments on the season. I just think it's kind of fucked that she hasn't been on yet. And then lastly, we have Madame LaQueer, who was kind of speculated a bit to be on All Stars 10, but is not. And I think she's another queen where she's had such a transformation. She's gone on a weight loss journey. Her drag looks a lot different now. And I think it would be an interesting kind of update to see where she's at now and, what she would do on the show. So I would personally love to see Madame LaQueer. I don't think there's any reason why she wouldn't be cast. It's just, do they have a spot for kind of a wild card pick like Madame LaQueer on their seasons moving forward? So now we have season 5. It's kind of the next era of seasons, the golden age, if you will. And this is kind of another cast where I feel like everyone that was brought back, and it's been a lot of them, are kind of what we're going to get. I think Jade Jolie has the best shot of coming back. She does have iconic moments. The back roll moment with Alyssa Edwards. She had that fight with Coco Montrese. She has the giggle. Then she came on to Dragula and, was getting into fights left and right on Dragula. Now she's come out as a trans woman. There's been a lot that has happened to her since her season, and she's still out there gigging, and, she's about to start a podcast with Coco Montrese, it sounds like. Especially if that podcast actually comes to fruition, I think that kind of will jump Jade's chances even more. I have her right smack dab in the middle, maybe a little bit less, but I think just with everything going on in her life right now, this would be a great time to bring her back and just kind of check in with her and see where her drag is right now. Lanacia Sparks was very heavily rumored to be on All Stars 8, but it was hard to tell if she was on or if she was just not on social media because she barely posts. So, unfortunately, I think that is a big knock against her. They definitely want their casts to be active online and, good at promoting and all of these things. And Lanacia is just not that queen. I'm looking up her Instagram right now to see when was the last time she posted. And she's deleted almost she's deleted almost everything on her Instagram, except for some random photos. The last photo is from 2020. And it's this creepy elf getting caught in a sewing machine. So, yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is a desire for Lanacia. She won a challenge. Many people think she should have won 2 challenges, myself included. She was just funny and quirky, and her drag was so polished back then. But I think she needs to come back to drag in order to get cast. And I think if she did come back to drag, she would be cast. That's just, we're not there yet. Then we have Ivy Winters, who, also does not do drag anymore. She is out there living her best farmer life and painting dicks and stuff. She is literally living her best life. It's just not involving drag. But if she ever were to pick up drag again, I think they would love to have her back. She's one of the only Miss Congenialities to not come back. Penetration is still booked and blessed, but she's just kind of like, she's one of those queens that just stays at her home bars and doesn't travel and doesn't really have a social media presence super well. So she just isn't someone that I think production, would have any interest in bringing back. And then we have Honey Mahogany and Vivian Panay, who, were double eliminated, and neither of them do drag anymore. Honey Mahogany is a huge politician out in San Francisco and is now a trans woman. And look at this mug. This was like a 2013 mug, 2012 mug. She is beat, and if you look at her Instagram now, she is so unbelievably stunning. So she's just is on a different career path, and there is no reason for her to come back. And then Vivian Panay obviously had the whole like princess wig scandal, I think it was, and then just kind of like left the internet and doesn't do drag anymore. So there's no reason to bring her back either. Although I would love to see one of the 4 double eliminated queens come back. I think Layla probably is the one that everyone wants to see the most. But I just think that's such a like iconic built-in storyline coming in. You're one of the only 4 people on the US season to be double eliminated. I don't know. I would love to see that. Now we have season 6, and there's more queens on the season than you would think that have not come back. Obviously, Magnolia Crawford doesn't do drag. I think she's a Republican now, so no. Courtney Act, it's kind of like a Willem. Like, I think everyone would want to see Courtney back, but one, I don't think Courtney needs it, and I think that she's honestly I would rather see her at this point start her own Australian drag program that is better than Drag Race Down Under, and just kind of like stick it to production just a little bit more. Like, honestly, that's kind of the journey that I would hope for Courtney Act. Jocelyn Fox, she is still doing gigs, but she doesn't really post like photos of herself. She just kind of posts show posters. I think that she's someone that a lot of people would want to see back, like for sure, but she just needs to be more active, like in the community, I think, for there to be an interest from World of Wonder. Kelly Mantle, I would love to see back. She's worked with Trixie Mattel a bunch. She's done all of her acting. She's been nominated for an Emmy. I just don't think she's necessarily ingrained in the drag race sphere enough. But of all the first outs that deserve a shot, Kelly Mantle is definitely one of them. Vivacious she's been cameoing a little bit more. They had Ornacia on season 12. They had Vivacious on season 15. And, so there's definitely, like, she's in the good graces of World of Wonder. They have her phone number. I just don't know if there's necessarily an interest from World of Wonder to bring her back for a whole season, or if she kind of can just be like a Stacey Lane Matthews or a Pork Chop and just kind of like have an iconic cameo every now and again. Now, Laganja, she has gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's giving Ben de la Creme before she was on All Stars 3. First she wants to come back, then she never wants to come back. Now she wants to come back again. Now she's like, I would never do it again in my life. So she is definitely a flip-flopper. I think she's landed on she would do it, and there was some speculation of her being on All Stars 10, but she is not. I don't know. I mean, she's one of the most iconic queens of all time. She would have such a redemption moment. I mean, she already had the redemption moment on All Star 6, but for, like, seeing her personality, seeing her as a trans woman and, her journey we could learn more about on the show, I think that, I just don't see why you wouldn't cast her. But the fact that she's now said she wants to come back and she's not on All Stars 10, I don't know. Maybe they're a bit worried because she's flip-flopped so many times. I would love to see her back. I hope she's back. I'm on the fence if it'll ever happen. It's kind of like it might be too good to be true kind of deal. And then we have April Carrion, who has wanted to come back since, All Stars 2 wasn't even a thing. She, willed All Stars 2 into existence by saying she wanted to do it. And then they have, never brought her back. But she is friends with so many Rue girls. She's booked, she's blessed, she's hot out of drag. I mean, I don't know why you would not cast April Carrion. But the fact that there have been so many opportunities, especially in these seasons where they're casting early outs, and they still have not brought her back, I just don't. There must be some reason for that. And I don't know what it is, but production just doesn't seem to be super interested in April. But I know myself and a lot of people, a lot of fans are interested. So there's always that glimmer of hope for me. I don't think it's like a slam dunk deal, but I think eventually, how could you, Eventually it's gonna happen. It will happen eventually. I'm holding out like hope in my heart for April Carrion. But until that day happens, I'm gonna keep her kind of a little more in the middle. Now we have season 7, and there's a couple people that are just no shot. Max, no shot. I think she still does do drag, but I think she's just very, the show really screwed her over, and I think that that's just something she's never really going to get over, and I don't think the show liked her, despite giving her 2 wins. I don't think they cared about her at all. They would rather make her look a fool than, set her up for a good narrative. So I don't see it for Max. Pearl, I don't even think she's doing drag super often at the moment. It seems like she's living her like Brokeback Mountain fantasy, which, work. Miss Fame is too big for Drag Race at this point. She's like an international model. She does beauty. She does all kinds of things. She doesn't need Drag Race. And I don't think Drag Race needs her either. And then Sasha Bell, who, if I had to make a list of the hottest men to ever be on the show, the OnlyFans speaks for itself. She is now Frisbee Jenkins, but I think she does pull out Sasha Bell sometimes as well. I think it'd be super interesting to bring her back as Frisbee Jenkins. That would be like the first time someone changed their drag persona and came back. I would love to see that. I just don't know that the show has any interest. Candy Ho, she was on the Switch. She, is still very much booked and blessed, but she's just never someone the show references or talks about. She barely was in the season as it is. So I think that if they wanted to bring back like, a lip sync assassin, someone who, is polished and would be, a good bet to at least bring some good runways, like they could bring her. Her mug is so good. So good. But I just don't know that there's a ton of interest. Jaden Dior Fierce is my number one pick to come back. She was in the mix for All Stars 3 and 4, I believe, but I don't think she's been in the mix since, at least as far as we know publicly. She's still like booked. She is still doing drag. It's just the show never references her. I think she would be kind of an out there pick. I think of all the queens on season 7, there are so many like huge stars. I think people like Jaden kind of do get lost in the mix for probably a lot of fans. But I will never give up hope that Jaden Dior Fierce will return to Drag Race one day. And I will feel vindication. And then we have Tempest DuJour, who, in the era of casting all these first outs, I think it's insane that Tempest has not returned. But I think that she would be a great one. I think that if the first challenge on season 7 was anything else, she would have made it probably at least halfway on season 7. And I think that she is one of the early outs that is the most deserving of a second shot. So to me, it's concerning that she hasn't been back, but I don't think that there's no shot. She was on season 14 as a cameo. That was a really great sign. They even let her do a runway. And then they brought back James, who was also in that episode. So there's definitely a precedent set for Tempest. I just think the timing needs to be right. Now we have season 8. Robbie Turner. I hope nothing but the best for Robbie. I hope that she is happy and healthy wherever she is, whatever she's doing. But she's been radio silent now for years. So after, her very public breakdown that everyone just loves to make fun of. Because, making fun of people who have mental health issues is so funny, guys. It's the funniest thing in the world. Please keep making Robbie Turner Uber jokes. I'm laughing at every single one of them. Dax, I liked Dax a lot. I mean, I love, cosplay. I love that she's an X-Men fan. She has an iconic Mystique look. But I think for lack of a better word, her attitude on social media sometimes is very off-putting. And I think that's very apparent to a lot of people. And I just don't think that Drag Race would want to cast someone like that. So love her drag. Not sure what's going on with her, personally, but wish her the best. And then Kimchi, she doesn't need Drag Race. I think something like the Christmas special that she came on is like the perfect place for her, where she doesn't really have to compete. She can just come on, show off her drag, if they do something like that again, Kimchi is a great choice. But, she's like a makeup mogul now. She doesn't need Drag Race. But I do think Drag Race needs her a little bit. I think Drag Race would love to have Kimchi on, but I just don't see Kimchi wanting to do it. Now we have kind of in the middle Layla McQueen and Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Layla McQueen, I feel like her time is somewhat past. I think there was a huge kind of push for her to go on around the All-Stars 5, All-Stars 6 time period. she is still like stunning, incredible makeup artist. She does kind of mustached, bearded drag, which I would love to see on the show. I would love to see her represent. And I just love her drag. I love her drag so much. And now that Bob's not doing We're Here, I mean, she seems to have like a little bit of more of an open schedule. So, I mean, I would love to have her on, but the fact that she hasn't been on yet with so many people wanting it is a bit concerning. And then Cynthia Lee Fontaine, who was somewhat speculated to be on All Stars 10, but then that kind of dropped pretty quickly. I mean, she is literally the like nicest human alive. She is nice to every single queen. She's nice to all of us content creators. She is constantly just being a lovely, lovely individual. I would love to see her back. They liked her enough to bring her back on season 9 and give her a second shot, which, you know, I don't think that she necessarily like made the most of, but it's been a long time since season 9. I would love to see where her drag is at now and just kind of like reintroduce her to a new audience who maybe don't know that she is so iconic and one of the most congenial queens of all time. I low key should switch Betty all the way over to yes because it seems like she might be locked in for All Stars 10, which I do feel vindication. I do feel like, you know, me shouting into the void to bring back Acid Betty on All Stars finally came to something because she deserves it. She is such an incredible drag artist. I love her drag so much. It is so unique. It is so her. It is so out of the box. And I am so, so excited for her All Stars runways. If the rumors are true, she is silent on all social media. So, like, I'm just hoping and praying here that she doesn't randomly get debunked one day. Now we're into the next era of the show. This is the VH1 era, and there's only 4 queens from season 9 who have not been back. This is one of the most iconic casts of all time. So it's not shocking to me that there's really no one left. We have Charlie Hides, who, you know, I think had her moment. I think that the show saw, okay, this is not the place for her. She's not going to necessarily play ball the way that we want our contestants to play ball. But I still think she's an icon. And, you know, a lot of the season 9 girls have just nothing but nice things to say about her. The same can be said for Nina Bonina Brown, who has kind of continuously just been transphobic. She's said some really nasty things about Gottmik on All Stars 9. She's resorted to just blurring Gottmik out of photos and stuff on her channel. I don't think we need a personality like her, an attitude like her on Drag Race. I think we need people who are going to uplift their trans brothers and sisters. And, you know, it's just sad when someone is so talented, but constantly gets in their own way and, you know, has so much hate in their heart. So it's a no for me, and I think it's a no for WoW. And I think it's a no for Nina. She was almost on All Stars 5, refused to go on because she didn't want to be involved in a plot with Shea Coulee, which is understandable, but I just think that was her moment. She didn't take it, and I think we can all move on. Kimora Black, I have kind of right in the middle. I think that she was in contention to be on All Stars 8. She's definitely one of the early outs that I would like to see more. She had her show Wait What, which was so iconic. I don't think that you're going to bring Kimora on because you're like, oh, she's going to win the whole thing. I think you bring Kimora on because she is so charismatic, so funny, unintentionally and sometimes intentionally. And she has really fucking fierce drag. So I think if they're looking for an early out to kind of fill out a cast, Kimora would be a great pick. And then there's Peppermint, who just like, she's not on All Stars 10. She said that they haven't asked her in the past, and I just don't know why. She is one of the most, like, iconic, trailblazing contestants. What she has done for the transgender community, she has just been such a light. She was on The Traitors. You know, I just don't know what they're doing. I don't know why Peppermint is not on. If it's a Peppermint saying no thing, that's one thing, but it sounds like that's not, from her perspective, that's not what's going on. Producers fucking get it together. That's all I gotta say. Okay, we have season 10 now, and there's still some people left from the season that I think we will see. Now, let's start out with Calorie Kardashian Williams. I mean, there's always a shot that she is like an unexpected early out, but unfortunately, she has kind of faded into the background since her season. So maybe in the future, but as of right now, I just personally don't see her being someone they call back. Especially when these seasons now, there's still a lot of options. The Vixen, again, I just don't think her and production are on good terms, and I don't know what the benefit would be for production to bring Vixen back. Like, I think there's definitely benefit to Vixen coming back, but I just don't know what production would get out of it. Dusty Ray Bottoms is someone I would love to see. I thought she was so underestimated and underappreciated on her season. I love her drag, but she's gotten a little bit quieter in the last couple of years. I think since Alexis Michelle went on All Stars and they were kind of like a duo, Alexis is kind of touring all over the place and, doing a lot more. And so I don't know where that necessarily leaves Dusty. Then we have Yuha Hamasaki, who I kind of feel like her time is also a little bit not over, but I think All Stars 6, All Stars 8 would have been a great moment for her because she is such a like meme queen in the fandom. She still has her YouTube going, but I just don't know if her star is as like high as it was a couple of years ago. Then we have Cameron Michaels, who just came to Cleveland and did an amazing job. I didn't see the show, but I did see a bunch of videos from people who went, and she looked stunning. She's always just kind of in between taking drag hiatuses and coming back for a little bit and then taking another hiatus. And I think that she's someone the show would love to have back, but she just has to want it. And I feel like she, from our perception, kind of falls in and out of love with drag and has kind of struggled with the stardom that she's gotten from the show. So I think that she's a little less likely now than she was a few years ago, but I still don't think she's fully out of the question. I also feel like Asia is someone who I was really, really high on coming back, but as the years go on, I'm just I don't know what's holding her back. Like, I think she would slay whatever season she came back to. And the fact that we still haven't seen her is a little bit concerning, but I feel like the door is always open for her, so it really is like the ball is in her court. Season 11, for a season with so many queens, there's 15, that was the most out of any season at that time, there's not that many options left. Ariel Versace, she's someone who I think was more famous before she was on the show than after. She's had some racism allegations in her community. I just don't think the show, needs to be wrapped up in Ariel Versace. Honey Davenport is another one where I feel like her star was bigger before the show than after. And she's so talented. She has so much versatility in her drag. And I think she would be a great option for someone who's an early out to come back and potentially slay a season, but I just don't see people clamoring for her to be back, and I don't necessarily think production is necessarily seeing her on their lists of people they would potentially contact. Brooklyn Heights, I don't see coming back unless there is a Legend season. I just feel like as a host, she's kind of superseded All Stars. She's bigger than All Stars now. So unless there is some kind of huge, maybe for season 20 or All Stars 15 or something, they do a Legend season. And then I could see her coming back. But until then, I think she's just fine hosting Canada's Drag Race. Mercedes is someone that I think had a story arc despite her only lasting 4 episodes. And she's someone where I would love to see where she is at now. Her drag is stunning. She is stunning. And I would love to see if because really her only issue was her self-confidence. She was so kind of small. She made herself small. And I would love to see if she has, grown at all when it comes to that. So she would be a fun pick for me. I also don't really see it anytime soon, but you never know. She would be a really fun wild card pick. And then we have Sugarcane, who I have a little bit over the halfway mark. And she's someone that really just got screwed over. I think everyone agrees that her elimination was bullshit. And I think that she, deserves a second chance for sure. Probably only makes it one more round on her season, but still, she was just sent home so, unsanctimoniously that I would love to see her growth. I would love to see where she's at now and get, a real fair shot. Now we're in, a new era, season 12 to season 16, where there really hasn't been that many returnees, and these are pretty new seasons, so we're going to kind of just blow past a lot of these. There's not really that much lore to go into like some of these older seasons. So we're just going to go from least likely to most likely for these seasons. Least likely is Aiden Zane. She just said that she's taking a drag break and she's having some money problems. So All Stars just does not seem to be in the stratosphere of what could be going on in her life anytime soon. Nikki Doll, I don't think needs All Stars. She's a host. I think she superseded it. And I don't even think on like a Legends that they would call Nikki because she really, I think, is better as a host than she was as a contestant. And I think everybody involved knows that. Widow, the domestic violence arrest, still a little foggy on what happened. I don't think anyone fully knows exactly what went down, but it's not great. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know if production would want to, put their eggs in her basket and have any of that come back in their face. So she was great on her season, but I just don't know if that is something that production wants to take any risk on. If she's someone that production wants to take a risk on. Dahlia Sin, of all the first outs, she's definitely one of the most polished, but I also feel like there are some other first out options I think production and a lot of people would rather see back first. And Britta, she was just like demolished by the fandom. She's someone else who was more famous before she went on than after. And I think that she's kind of the case of like the Ariel Versace, where like if you're already big and you go on and don't meet expectations, people will hold that against you. And I don't think that's fair, but I think that's what happened to Britta. And I think she's, had a lot of struggle. She's kind of finally getting back into the groove of things. And I just don't know if she would want to put her hat back in the ring and potentially go through that much trauma again. Then we have a huge jump, and I think the next four are all getting on at some point. It's kind of just up to them. Rock'em Sakura is a huge fan favorite. She was definitely in the mix for All Stars 10. People were speculating, but does not seem to be on. Gigi Good, I think, just has too much going on right now to do All Stars, but when her schedule starts to dwindle a little bit, she can go on and then it'll boom again. Same with Crystal Method and Jackie Cox. Jackie has so many like sponsorships and partnerships, and her and Jan are constantly going on tour together. So I think those three, it really is just up to them when they feel like they have the time for it and when they feel like it is necessary, because I think for it right now, it's not necessary for the three of them. Season 13, Elliott, there was definitely some scandals with her on season 13 that a couple of her sisters have come out about. She seemed to have grown as a person. She's doing what she can to grow. But I just don't know if she necessarily has a storyline if she comes back, because she was barely in the episodes of season 13 as it is. Joey J, I think would be a really fun pick for an early out kind of wild card choice. I just feel like from these newer seasons, they have to get through the big dogs before they can start using the wild card picks. So I don't think we're going to see her soon, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Tamisha Iman, she's had many controversies herself, but she is so respected in the drag community that she would be a fun choice to just kind of throw into the mix and see what chaos she stirs up. And then Tina Burner is another kind of case of like the Brittas and the Ariel Versace's, where she was big before Drag Race, and I feel like she just did not live up to expectation, and that is somewhat of a killer in this industry. So I don't know if there's necessarily that much push for Tina Burner to come on to Drag Race again, but I don't think there's any reason you wouldn't cast her, unlike the other three behind her. Kimora Hall, much like Tempest du Jour, was chosen to be one of the first out cameos in season 14. She's been on the pit stop. She is so stunning. She has so much personality. It really just comes down to, do they have a spot for a first out on a future All-Star season? And if they do, Kimora, I think, would be one of the first calls they would make. Then we have the four that I think are definitely going to be on, two of which are probably on season 10 of All Stars, Denali and Olivia. As for Utica, I feel like it's, she's making looks for all kinds of people. She's become a huge seamstress and designer in her community. And it really just is like, when does she have the time? Because she definitely has the budget now. She had the budget then, too. Her looks were insane. So for her, I think it really just comes down to whenever she wants to do it. Rosé's kind of a weird one for me. I think that she did not get a good edit on her season. I feel like I said back then, and I still feel the same way, that we didn't get to know her almost at all. And I feel like that has almost affected her post Drag Race career because she was a huge fan favorite on the season, but because we really didn't get to know her, I don't think that lasted for that long. And now I feel like she really doesn't come up a lot. She was just on Give It To Me Straight, which was great. We got to know a lot more about her. But for how popular she was on season 13, you would think that she would be on the pit stop and on all the tours, and that's just not really the case. So I think that if she was on, it would be a nice introduction, a reintroduction to her, and hopefully we would get to know more about her on the show. But I just don't know if she's like a top priority. So I think there's definitely interest. I just don't think she's like making a cast like 1000%, like some of these other queens we're going to be talking about. Season 14, we've only seen a couple people back. There are 2 queens, potentially 3, who will be on All Stars 10, and those are the ones that are, all the way over to the 100%. Because even if they aren't on, there's definitely interest, and I feel like they will probably be on the next one. So that is Jasmine, Deja, and Bosco. As for the people who I feel like don't have as high of a chance, June, as a first out, I just don't think gets that much buzz. There's a lot of first outs like Hershey or like Kimora or like Tempest, where people are like actively like asking for them to come back and get a second shot. June just isn't in that camp, so I don't think her chances are that high. And same with Orion, who I feel like the show didn't really know what to do with, and then randomly gave her like a delusional villain edit in her last episode. I just don't know if Orion's drag necessarily like fits in the box in the mold that Drag Race would want it to. So I'm not sure that there's interest in either party to go back. Then we have Alyssa Hunter, who the show fully just said fuck you, should have been in the top for the ball, should have stayed in her lip sync. And that, caused a lot of controversy. People were saying Alyssa was being overlooked. There's no way that she should have been second out. So if they want to bring her back and give her a real shot, I feel like they could. She's definitely in the social circles. She's, mingling with all the Rue girls. But I just don't know if production would necessarily be super high on Alyssa when there's plenty of other people on the season they probably would want first. Then we have this cluster of 5 that I feel like all will get to go on. I don't know the right order. Maddie obviously is having a huge renaissance right now. She's a huge, huge star when it comes to Give It To Me Straight and her social media. Everybody loves Maddie, but she would have to like quit her show for like 3 months to go film. Or I guess less than that, maybe 2 months to go film. So I don't know if that's necessarily what she wants to do right now when the show is booming. Cornbread, there was so much talk about her being unprofessional and nasty, and people hated her pit stop episode. And, I don't know about all that, but all I know is I worked with Cornbread on Drag Duel, and out of all of the Rue girls that I talked to for that, Cornbread was the most professional. She was the most easy to work with. And if you'll, realize she's the only one that actually made the show. No shade. No shade. I'm just saying that there's a lot of, negative things said about Cornbread. I did not have that experience with her. She was so professional, so sweet, so nice, and I would love to see her back. I think it's another thing where when she wants to come back, I think that she will. Carrie Colby, she was potentially on All Stars 10, but was debunked, and especially after Sasha Colby, her drag mother, won, bringing a Colby back just seems like, why wouldn't you? And then we have Lady Camden and Diabetti, who were huge, presences on their season, huge fan favorites. Diabetti was less of a fan favorite, but just more of a, like, villain that people love to see every single week. And I think that when they want to come back, they'll come back. Season 15 and 16, there's been no opportunities yet for them to come back. Well, okay, except for All Stars 10, which it seems like Irene Dubois is on with her sister Bosco, so that will be interesting. Everyone else I have just put in order of how I think they will get on. Because it's kind of like too soon to say with the cast this early. You haven't really seen where people fall at the end of everything once their season is kind of like we've moved on fully. I think Princess Poppy would be my least likely because she's like the Idge Bowl queen. Like, she's not really doing drag a ton anymore, and she more is just trolling the internet, and like that's what we want from her. And so I don't think Drag Race is looking to have her on anytime soon. Amethyst and Robin, they didn't have huge storylines on their season. but I'd be interested to see them both back. Sugar and Spice, I feel like we need more time. I think they need more time. Someone like Aura Mayari, who won a challenge but was really not liked by the fandom, I would love to see get a second chance, but I just feel like there's a lot of queens on this season they would want to see first. Anitra, I don't, who knows what's going on with Anitra. She's, canceled a bunch of gigs. She's kind of gone silent on social media. No one really knows what's going on. There's speculations she might be having a health issue or a mental health issue. It's really not on us to speculate, but there's obviously something going on in her life, and I hope that she is doing well. I did see her live, and oh my god, she's incredible. So I would love to see her back. My pick for the season, who I want to see back the most, well, my two are probably Selena and Jax. Jax was so mistreated on this season. They did not care about her. They were constantly putting her on the bottom when she didn't deserve it. And I want her to get a real shot. Marcia, she just played at the Tonys. She was in one of the performances. I feel like she's on the come up. I feel like maybe not next year, but I feel like a year after would be a good time for her if she continues on this momentum. And then Malaysia, they always love to bring back a Miss Congeniality. And she and Mistress have such good chemistry. I would love to see them on a season together. And then, like this top four, Lucy, Selena, Mistress, and Lux, they're all coming back. Selena was heavily speculated to be on season 10 of All Stars. So it really just comes down to when they want to come back, I think. Or maybe Selena got cut this season, but like next season would be on. Season 16, I think the person with the least amount of chances right now is Geneva. I just don't think the audience connected with her. She really did not do that well in the competition past the first episode and the girl groups. And I just don't know if I just think there's so many other people in the season that people would want to see back, both the audience and production first, that I think right now Geneva probably has the least amount of shot to come back. Hershey, as a first out, I think does have a good shot when it comes to just the first outs. But on this cast, there's so many heavy hitters. I think that she might have to wait a while. Tsunami was the Miss Congeniality, but really had no edit. Saphira, I just feel like she doesn't need Drag Race. She showed every single thing she had. I don't know what more she could have done to get the win except for that final lip sync. So I don't think she needs All Stars anytime soon. I think that she can just ride this wave. She's releasing music. I hope she tours the world. Anything she wants to do, I feel like the world is her oyster, and I feel like there's no reason for her to come back to All Stars anytime soon. Maya and Dawn are kind of question marks. They really didn't do that well in the competition. They really weren't fan favorites. I feel like they could get a call, but I feel like they might not make it onto a cast for a couple more years. Then we have Mirage, Amanda, and Megami, who are all kind of in the same boat for me, where the fans love them, but they did not do super well on their seasons. And they're all pretty much early outs. I think they kind of go back to back to back. Megami makes it the farthest. But if they want to bring back someone from 16 that is a fan favorite that maybe has more to show, I think all three of them have more to show. I think Amanda, especially coming out as trans and being kind of a little troll all over Twitter, I think has a lot of kind of potential there. And Megami, I feel like kind of gave everyone what they wanted at the very, very last second. And now we're all like, wait, now I want more. But the season's over. So I feel like those two have the best chance of this group. But Mirage is a huge fan favorite. I saw her live and she's one of the greatest performers I have ever seen in my life. So I would love to see all three of them. And I feel like in the next, 5 so years, all three of them will get their chance to come back. Q, I think, is someone that they would love to have back because Q gave us a great delusional villain moment, storyline. She is very controversial online, on Twitter. People are always talking about Q, and that's the kind of person you want to bring back because that just means they're going to continue to bring controversy and people talking and discussing when they do come back. Then we have Plain Jane, who I don't think we'll see anytime soon, but I feel like the show would love to have back as just the unabashed villain that she was. Plasma and Morphine are the first ones I think we'll see. Because Plasma won 2 challenges, great confessionalist, super polished, just, had a challenge that I don't think she had a single shot in hell of ever doing well at. And it was really unfortunate. So I feel like her storyline was rising and then just got snipped. And those are the people that they love to bring back. So I think we'll see Plasma very, very soon. And I think we'll see Morphine really, really soon. Morphine, I feel like, has the best chance of getting the call first out of everybody on this cast because she won the Lollapalooza at the end. She was the narrator of the season. I feel like once she watches herself back, she'll realize everything that she did wrong. And I think on an All Stars, Morphine would kill it. And I think production sees that too. And they see the potential of her as a huge social media mogul type of queen from the franchise. She's already started her YouTube, and I feel like she could just keep rising. And, you know, I didn't see her at a show, but she was like walking through the crowd when I was at the season finale viewing party in LA. And she like bumped past me, and I looked and I just saw her mug in person, inches away from me, and my jaw dropped. She is one of the most stunning queens. I will say she looks incredible on TV. It looks just as good in person. Just as good in person. So I would love to see Morphine back. And I feel like we'll see her back. So those are the main 16 seasons. But I'm going to do a part 2 to this video with the All-Star seasons. Because as we're seeing with this Canada versus the World cast, which I have thoughts about, we're going in a very interesting casting direction for bringing people back a third time or a fourth time. So I want to go through the All-Star seasons and talk about who we might be able to see come back for versus the World, for global All-Stars, or just on a regular everyday All-Stars for their third shot. So that will be coming later in the week. And then next week, we will have the Riggery of Season 8. So that is what is going on the channel. There is that collab that I've been teasing that will be coming out in July. And I just want to thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for the 75K. I am so excited to bring that video to you all, as well as Season 2 of Drag Duel, which is, like I said, in production. And I'm just having so much fun editing it slowly this time and being able to like really take my time and not want to off myself every single week because I only had like 6 days to edit every single episode. So I'm very excited for all things Drag Duel, Drag Detective. We're up in this bitch. Listen to the Rigged Recap. And if you are not already, make sure you subscribe because now that we hit 75, we're going for that 100, baby. We are going for 100. I know we can do it. And when we do, I'm going to have to do something crazy. I'm going to do something insane for 100. So make sure you are subscribed so that we get there and I do something that will probably humiliate me all over the internet. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.